Hi, this is Ruth Theresa with One Inspiring Woman, and today I'm talking about some planetary energy. I'm talking about Jupiter in retrograde. Jupiter has been in pre-shadow up until June 20th. It went into pre-shadow March 27th, and then so it kind of amped up, and it goes from June 20th through October 18th, and then it'll start to lessen into post-shadow until January 8th, 2022. So Jupiter actually does some jumping around a little bit. It starts out in retrograde in Pisces, and then it kind of backs all the way up into Aquarius, and then at the end, when it's going into post shadow, we'll go back into Pisces energy. So we won't really get that Pisces energy until late in July the 28th, and it'll stay in Aquarius energy until December 28th, and then it'll keep moving forward into Pisces energy. So we just kind of get like a handful of mixture of energies with this planet. So it's going to be interesting. So normally Jupiter is like the planet of expansion and growth and abundance and all kinds of things, like just amazing stuff. Now in retrograde, it kind of gives us the backside of that. It's kind of like to get this expansion and growth during regular time. In retrograde, it's going to be kind of doing the opposite, kind of like making things small or tight, or feeling like you need to be away from everybody else to kind of get a new thoughts in your head, or kind of clear your head of being able to do something else. And kind of like it gives you great insight into what you should be doing when it comes out of retrograde. So one of the things that's really interesting is it is in retrograde for about 4 months every year. So this is something that we deal with annually. And so it's kind of, we've been around the block. We know what we're doing. This one just happens to be in Pisces, which is the sign of the fish. And so it's going to make it feel like it's flowing a little bit easier, or almost like we need to jump out of the water at times. And so one of the things that's really interesting to note is Jupiter has like this really male energy to it, and it can make us during this time frame in retrograde kind of focus more inward, and kind of like we need to be away from everybody, kind of like go into our man cave, and just kind of like I need to get some time away from everybody else. The positive side of that is a lot of times during Jupiter in retrograde, people lose weight. I know, interesting. You may also feel distant from other people, or feel like you're always looking for that connection with other people around you. And that's just typically normal during Jupiter in retrograde. So one of the stones that I have found that really works well with that is labradorite. And labradorite is considered the psychic stone, and it has a lot of beautiful colors in it. It has a lot of movement in it, but it has a lot of magical powers as well. And it can kind of help you kind of do that inward work so that you're ready to move forward again. And that's kind of what retrograde is all about. It's kind of like moving inward. What needs to come up? What do we need to work through? What do we need to deal with now so we're ready for the other side of it? So it's kind of like the labradorite can help that. I like bigger ones. I have a couple of big stones, but you can also wear it in a necklace or bracelet or around your body, or even a smaller stone and kind of keep it in your pocket. I think this would be a little too big. Let's see. Jupiter in retrograde will usually affect larger animals, human beings, cattle, horses. It kind of just is something that kind of we deal with at this time frame. So if you ride horses or you're around cattle, they can be a little bit skittish during this time frame, or almost feel like they need to be alone and not really kind of ready to get nuzzled or loved on or whatever else. So it's kind of like they're going to feel like that. It's one of those. This also usually affects larger groups. So you're going to have people that have larger groups, or things that they have planned for larger groups, that are going to fall apart because everybody feels like they need to be left alone. And it can also kind of help you, feel lonely during this time frame. So people don't necessarily like to get out and about all that much, but I think that's kind of one of the things that labradorite really helps with, is it kind of helps you kind of do that inward work so you're ready to get out there faster. The other one that this really affects a lot is travel, because a lot of people are kind of like, oh, let's make plans. But then again, that's like, maybe I really don't want to go. Maybe I don't want to get out and about and be seen, or get out kind of energy. So it kind of just affects a lot of people in many, many different ways. I love my stone. So one of the things that it can also do is your creativity may feel a little stuck, or that you don't kind of like have your ambitions under control, or it's kind of like, I don't know if what I think I want to do is what I want to do. And so this is just a really good time to do that inner work. What do I really want out of my life? And then everything that you do after that is kind of like asking that question. Is this going to get me closer to my goal or further away from my goal? I was having a conversation with a client earlier today about that very, very subject. And she was like, I want to like be with my friends at work and kind of make that connection, but at the same time I want to be by myself. And then also kind of like, I don't want to hinder my career. So I kind of she forces herself to go out and be social with the other people at work. But she's like, I really want to be left alone and I really want to do my own thing, but with her own business. And so I was like, this is a great time. Labradorite is a great stone to have with you. But then also keeping that in mind, like this is a good time to kind of take a step back from what you've been pushing for a while. So if you need to take a break for a little bit or kind of get a different insight. And then the other part of that is when you're ready to move forward, know that you're ready to go. It's one of those, don't force yourself to do something that you're really not ready to get into at that time. So let's pull a couple of angel cards and hopefully get us a little bit deeper insight into Jupiter in retrograde and what can we learn. Truth and integrity. One of the things that's really important to keep in mind is Jupiter is, of course, about truth. All of them are. But it's kind of like, what is the integrity? What do I really feel? Am I keeping honor with myself? Am I being, a friend to myself and kind of getting away from everybody else? Am I dealing with things that I need to be working on and moving forward? The next card that comes forward is celebration. Normally, like I said, Jupiter is all about expansion and growth, but this is just as important as the growing part of the business. This is kind of like, let me take a step back and what is going to move my business forward, or what is going to push my business forward in that energy faster. And sometimes it takes a little bit of a break to go, let me take a little bit of time off and make sure that I'm heading down the right road, or make sure that I'm getting the right information. This is also a lot of times during Jupiter in retrograde that a lot of people will reach out to me to make sure that they're still on the right path, that they're still moving the right energy. And even sometimes going into astrological readings. I do not do astrological readings, but a lot of people will ask for those during that time frame, or ask for references of friends of mine that do that. So that's always an interesting energy of what is coming up in that area. Let's pull another card. Healing. This is really about healing. Jupiter has some amazing healing energy with it. And healing can be very, very strong for most people during this time frame. And that's part of that, like, let me go back and heal, kind of let me go in that man cave, let me do my thing and kind of heal what I need to heal on me so I can now heal others or move out into my world. And it doesn't mean that you have to heal people as part of your business. It could be that you heal people with their words, or just hearing what they have to say, or letting them have a voice, listening to them. That is some type of healing that a lot of people don't really understand nor are willing to do. It's one of those to give a voice to someone else's emotions. I will tell you that the other thing on the other side, I have noticed that with a lot of people, when Jupiter is in retrograde, people are a little bit more emotional. So you'll have people that end up crying a lot, or kind of energy releasing. It's kind of like they've been inside and they've kind of pulled all those things inside, and it's like, now I need to unpack them. And sometimes when the incident happened, before they went into this area, they should have cried. They should have let it go. And this is the time that they're kind of like, now I'm letting it go. Now I've unpacked it and I'm ready to let it go. Literally, crying is always about releasing old energy, things that we were not able to let go of as a child or a young adult, or give it a voice at that time frame. It's like, now is the time. One of the last things I'm going to talk about Jupiter in retrograde, this is a time that you're going to kind of see politics more restless, people kind of jockeying for it, more energy, kind of getting their information out there. One of the other things is because Jupiter has such strong energy, we may see some tectonic plate movements. Sometimes you'll have more volcanoes go off, or shifting, or earthquakes. All that kind of stuff can be something that amps up during this time frame. And I think part of it is just like the heat on the earth. We're so warm at the equator right now. that amplifies it as well. But Jupiter has a lot to play with this as well. Jupiter is a very powerful planet, and it's going to make some really interesting squares later on this year. I think our next one is coming up in December. And that's kind of like a square that Jupiter is going to be making with Uranus, and that's going to bring in some really hard energy for a little bit, and then it'll amplify. It's still connected to it now, but they're not as close right now. Eventually they'll get a little bit closer, so that's something to kind of keep an eye on as well. I thank you so much for joining me today. If you have any questions or want to subscribe or like or even comment on my video, I would love to hear from you. I hope you have an amazing day and know that we'll be talking again soon.